So, can you start out by telling us a little bit about how you got started on the organ?
I started playing the organ, or my fascination with the organ was as early as I can remember, and actually before I can remember. My mother tells me that when she took me to Trinity Lutheran Church in the Bronx, where we grew up, that I would want to sit at the side so that I could see the organist up in the front of the church. So I could see the organ was placed sideways, so I could see the pedals and everything. And then she said when we came home from church, I would kneel down in front of the sofa and pretend I was playing the church organ. And this was at age 3, so that was a strange little kid, knowing at that age what he loved, you know. And it's stayed with me ever since. This inspiration that I got from a very not very distinguished organ at all, in this little chapel of our school in the Bronx. It was I remember it was cement block walls, and the organ was an electronic organ, and the front of the church was very fancy, and I liked that. I thought that was really nice. But then the sound of the organ and watching somebody do this, seeing that how they were making these sounds was just fascinated me to no end, you know. And I guess it still does.
I love that you really loved it from the very beginning. Like that's just amazing.
I don't know too many people that have had that fascination that early in life, you know. Um, and then it continued with I used to play rock music and gospel music and soul music and rhythm and blues. Played piano and some electronic keyboards, and also sang with various bands and toured a little bit doing that. And at one point, I had to decide which way I was going to go. You know, they each required your full time attention, so I decided on the organ.
Well, we're very glad. Do you have, as you look back over your many performances, do you have a favorite performance memory that jumps out as being particularly special to you?
I guess one of the special performances for me was at Notre Dame in Paris. This was the year before the fire, and this was a Tuesday evening performance, and the church was really almost packed with paying customers, and I was so surprised. I thought, oh, this will just be people coming off the street, you know. But it was a ticketed evening event, and it just felt so special that all these people were there and actually paying money to hear in Notre Dame Cathedral, where you can hear great music all the time and great organists play all the time. So it felt very special to me, I remember, and uh, I remember thinking, you know, because when you perform a recital and you're playing a pipe organ, you could be almost anywhere in the world. You could be in Little Rock, Arkansas, or Paris, France. You know, it's because you're thinking about what you're doing and you're so focused on that, you're not really aware of your surroundings. And so I remember at one point in that recital, I thought, okay, savor this moment now. This is something very special, and I did. You know, I just felt that. Oh, okay, yeah, this is, and it sort of relaxed me. Also, it made me a little less nervous for playing there. You know.
Could you maybe talk to us about just one of the pieces on the program and kind of what either what we can expect from it or what maybe you love about it or anything like that?
Mhm. The program I'm going to play is modeled after the original inauguration program played by my predecessor at Eastman, David Craighead, 40 years ago. And the program is going to use the same sort of architecture, but not exactly the same music. The program he played was more than 2 hours long, and I think, well, today's audiences, I don't know that they want to sit for 2 hours, so I made it a little bit shorter too. So that will be welcome to anyone. We always say the brain cannot take in what the seat cannot endure. So we we don't want to ever play too long. So I'm going to play the first half is going to be all pieces based on hymn tunes or German chorales or chant. So we'll hear, but they won't sound like hymns at all. They'll be what composers did, taking these tunes that people knew or still know, and how they set them in different ways. So One of the pieces is by the jazz pianist George Shearing. And there'll be two little chorale preludes I'll play by him, both based on early American hymn tunes. One is called There Is a Happy Land, and the other is called I Love Thee, My Lord. And these are almost like American folk songs. But he takes them and bathes them in some really nice harmonies, and then one of them ends with like a jazz organ sound. That's really beautiful, I think, and so that'll be very different. But then we'll also start with a Bach chorale prelude on a New Year's hymn, "In Thee Is Joy," it's called, and it's a very exuberant sort of. It sounds like bells are ringing the way he writes it. Then a piece by to end that first half. There'll be a piece by Mendelssohn, a sonata for 4 movements, but based on a German hymn tune, based on the text of that German hymn tune, which I'll explain in the concert how Mendelssohn how he sort of painted this text with music. So it's a really fascinating way to listen to it.
Awesome.
Then there's one piece that I've learned recently by a Dutch composer, Jacques van Ortmersen, who was a friend of mine. He died a few years ago. He was an organ teacher, but also a great performer and composer. And he wrote this piece in memory of his teacher, Marie-Claire Alain, the famous French organist. And it's based on a hymn tune that talks about the evening, and it's now all the woods are sleeping. Now all the forest is sleeping. And he wanted it, he said, I want the sound of this to be reminiscent of birds singing before they go to bed at night as the sun is setting, so, and it really does sound like that. It's really cool.
So this is our season of inspiration, and so we're asking artists to talk a little bit about what inspires them or how they find inspiration. So could you talk to our audience about how you find inspiration?
For me, I have to go back to childhood and sort of my first love of the organ when I first heard it, and that will sometimes bring me to a place where I feel that sort of elemental need to play the organ, and there's a great inspiration in that I can transcend then in my mind all the technical difficulties of playing the instrument. Or, I might be playing an instrument, I don't like the sound so much of this organ, and so I think, oh, it would sound so much better on that organ, and then sometimes you'll get into that as you're listening, and it's like, not as good as it should be. But then I think, no, let's see, what if this was the only organ in the world, and would I love it? Yes, I would love it. And so I go to that place thinking of when I was a child, and when I just heard a very bad instrument. It was an amplified reed electric organ that spoke through a speaker, and but yet I was so taken with it. So I thought, yeah. So then when I'm playing an organ that I don't find as compelling, then I go to that place. But as an organist, I do take a lot of inspiration from the actual sound that I'm getting from an instrument. So the organ at Christ Church in Greensboro is truly an inspiration. That sounds cliche, but I don't mean it that way. It really is an inspiring instrument, because when you press a key and you hear a certain sound, you go, it sort of spurs you on to play even better, than you would normally, because you're reacting to that sound. So it's like a two-way street with the organ. So even though you practice to play this thing as well as you can, then sometimes the instrument will make you transcend that you thought was, okay, this is about as good as it's going to get, and then you get this inspiration from the sound. So that's really a wonderful thing. That's one of the things that makes playing so many different instruments also really a wonderful inspiration to me.